The key to explain that last portion, which is what's in it for the homeowners, the fourth, meat and potatoes point. Okay, the key to that is to not. I never offer it to them. Okay, I don't say, "Hey, we're going to save you 30% off of the electric rate." What I say is, now the homes out here that get picked for this, they save 30% off of the electric rate. Okay. And the reason that I do that, you want to be as far away from selling as possible. Okay, so I don't even want it to sound like I'm offering them something. Plus, it makes the takeaway more effective. So I don't say, hey, if you qualify for this, you're going to save 30% off the electric rate. That's the homes that get picked out here, they save 30%. Okay, I'm so basically like, hey, you can't have this. You'll never get this. It's I'm talking about what's going on out in the neighborhood. We're both standing there, and I'm basically describing what's happening. Okay. I'm not offering them something. I'm not, selling them something. Okay, and it's a big key to kind of how I do this. And that's, throughout the whole approach, I try to explain that. Okay, even when I'm taking it away, I still say the homes that qualify, they save 30% off the electricity rate. It's all about they instead of you. Okay, I'm not offering them something. Okay. It's immediately followed by step 6, which is the takeaway. Okay. This is extremely important. These last 2 steps, if you don't do them properly, it'll drastically lower the percentage of how many houses you get into. Okay, the fact is people want things that they can't have more than, hey, we're giving to you, so it's a takeaway. Okay, it's saying, now, obviously, all of the people we talked about here, they want to get picked for this because it's paid for, and they save 30% off of the electric rate from day one. But I'm not the one who decides who actually qualifies out here. Obviously, we can only pick the best houses that get the most sunlight since we're paying for everything, right? So what my job is to do is to explain to you, and then I fill out a little form so we can schedule a time for them to come out and measure the roof to see if you guys actually get enough sunlight. The only thing that I'm worried about for you guys is, and then, break here where you can insert, whatever applies to them. Okay, the only thing I'm worried about for you guys is this tree right here might prevent you guys from getting picked for this, or the way that your house is oriented might prevent you guys from getting picked out here. Okay, or the pitch of the roof may prevent you guys from getting picked out here. Okay, insert one of those 3 things on what you're actually worried about. It makes the takeaway even stronger. At that point, they will usually, if you're doing a good job with this and they're interested, they'll usually defend their position, which is, oh, those trees don't really, shade the roof, or, oh, my house gets tons of sunlight, we'll probably qualify, But you're doing that takeaway, and at that point, they're trying to sell you on why they should get picked for it. So, again, it's, now, kind of the catch with this whole thing, and I say that now as I say the catch with this, is that not everybody qualifies for this. Since we're paying for everything, obviously we can only pick the house that get the best sunlight, right? So I'm not the one that decides which houses actually get qualified out here. My job is just to explain it, and then I fill out a little form which allows me to schedule a time for them to come out and measure the roof to see if the house actually gets enough sunlight. And then in about 2 weeks, we'll know whether or not you guys actually qualify, and then we go from there. But I just have to fill out that little form. I do a little place we could sit real quick, okay? And that's my number 1 transition that I use right there, is do a little place we could sit. When you use it and immediately following that takeaway, okay, it's extremely effective. And 2 things that I do in there also that I want to explain why I do them. I say we'll usually know in about 2 weeks whether or not you qualify, because that takes the heat off them. Okay, I've now told them that we're not even going to know if you qualify for this for at least 2 weeks. And in their mind, they feel good about 2 weeks. They have plenty of time to think about stuff. They have plenty of time to do the research and talk to the people that they want to talk to. Okay, if I say, hey, you're going to qualify today, and you're going to make a decision, that turns the heat on. And just that little line there that we won't know for about 2 weeks whether or not you qualify. Sometimes I'll even apologize. I'll be like, I want to apologize in advance. We're pretty booked out on these surveys, so we probably won't know if you qualify for this for at least 2 weeks. But once we know if you qualify or not, we go from there. But I just have to fill out that little form real quick. Do you have a place we can sit? Okay. Really important thing, and that's the transition, by the way, into the house there. It's the takeaway and the transition. They flow together really smoothly, and you're basically taken away and then going into the house. If you notice, when I'm explaining, one of the big things that I do is I'm very matter of fact, and I'm saying this is what's happening, this is what we're doing, okay? Words that you want to take out of your initial approach all together, never want to say the words we're looking for, we're trying, we're hoping, okay? All of those words have the intention of failing, okay? It's very simple. This is what we're doing. We measure all of the houses out here. Now we're looking for good houses. To me that sounds like, you know, in the homeowner's mind, it's like, we're looking for the first stupid person to agree to this. You know, this is what we're doing. We're measuring the houses out here. The houses that get picked, get the panels paid for, and save 30% off of the electric rates. Everything is very definitive. This is what's happening. Okay, there's no room for, you know, like that they're not going to do it. Okay, I'm assuming that every single person I talk to is going to get this done. Okay, and I totally exude that attitude when I'm there. Right, I'm coming across like the last 100 people I've talked to. Of course, they said yes. They wanted to see if they qualify. Okay, and I bring that to every door. That intensity and that determination that you're going to do it, just like the last 100 people that I talked to. And that's a really big, you know, step, which that comes from practice and confidence, but also just from, you know, psyching yourself up into thinking that the last 100 people you talk to said yes. Of course, this next person's going to say yes. If you're bringing to the next door the last 20 people that said no to you, they're going to see that when you come to them at the door, and it's not going to be as effective. So that's one thing right there. But you know, the other big thing is take those words out, be very definitive of how you explain everything. The transition is extremely important. That is one of the biggest rookie mistakes, I think, is guys will start to just keep explaining things and hope to be invited into the house. And this is what you have to realize, is that the reality of the situation is people still have their guard up. They're programmed to not, you know, talk to door-to-door people. Your job is to get them to trust you enough and lower that guard so that they pay attention to you. But it's very rare. If you're going off with somebody who's going to invite you in the house, you're talking about like a 1% to 2% of people are ever going to do that, even if they're extremely interested. So you have to transition to the house. Once you've gone through those 7 steps, you transition in. Okay? Don't just keep talking and explaining stuff until they like get tired of standing there and invite you in. Okay? You'll lose many sales like that if you don't transition at the right time. You'll get things like, well, this sounds good, but can I have a card? Or can you come back and explain this when my husband's here? Blah, 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 I need to do more research about it. It's because you didn't transition properly. Okay? That's them basically saying like, hey, you haven't come in here yet, but I don't want to stand here anymore, so just leave me a card and I'll think about this later. The transition is extremely important that you do that at the correct time. Otherwise, everything you've done so far is just a waste. So don't wait for them to invite you in, transition at the appropriate time. Okay? Now, I have a specific formula of how I do this. That's the 7 points. Okay? That's how I go through it in detail. Now, I always transition right after that takeaway, but guess what happens sometimes? They still say no. They still come up with an objection. Okay? That's very normal. Expect that. Okay? Here's something that I've done that is extremely effective. Okay? Categorized every possible objection that you get on the door into 2 things. Okay? Doesn't matter what they're saying. You need to realize that, you know, they're not just going to come out and say what they're really thinking. They're going to come up with some BS objection, you know, that isn't actually the reality, which is, you've heard all, you know, all before. I'm cooking right now. Now's not a good time. Can you come back and explain to my husband? You know, I'm busy right now, or, you know, I need to do more research. All these things aren't real objections, okay? What they're saying falls into 2 things, right? It's either, hey, I don't understand it well enough. Can you please explain it to me again, okay? That's what most objections fall into, all right? The second thing it falls into is, hey, I understand what you're saying, but it sounds too good to be true. Can you please make it make sense of why this is not too good to be true, okay? That's the only 2 things that they actually say. Those are the 2 possible answers to this, okay? Because otherwise, you'd already be in the house, because if anybody logically understands what we're explaining, there's no reason they would say, I need to do more research, because we don't even know if they qualify yet. They want to do more research, and they should have us in the house and explain further information so they can do better research, you know? So none of those things make sense right there. If you really think about it, all of those objections aren't real, okay? You need to come back and explain this when my husband's here. That's not a real objection. We don't know if you qualify yet. I just need to make sure you even get the basic info so that I can schedule time to see if you qualify, okay? So it's really important that you break down mentally. Any objection you hear on the door is not a real objection, it's one of those two things. And that's how I respond to it, okay? If they say, hey, now's not a good time, can you come back later? I'm sorry, I'm not explaining it properly. Basically what's going on out here is this, okay? Because what I just heard was, hey, I don't understand this yet, can you please explain it to me again? So that's what I respond to. I don't respond to, hey, now's not a good time. I don't say, hey, oh, that's okay, it'll just take a minute, you know, I just need to do this, or hey, I'm cooking right now, well, alright, well, I'll come back later when you're not cooking. I don't even hear that cooking thing. All I hear is, hey, I don't explain this, I don't understand this yet, please explain it to me again. So that's what I do, is I explain it to him again. And I break it down even simpler, okay? I go back into the 4 points, alright? So this is my formula on every door. If they say no the first time I transition the house with some BS objection like that, it's, hey, I'm sorry, I'm explaining this wrong. Basically what's going on is the laws were passed, BG needs the clean electricity. We produce it for them, that's how we get paid, and by the federal government as well. What we need is roof space to put the panels so that we can produce the electricity and make money. That's where the homeowners come in, is they have the roof space. So we measure the roofs to see which houses qualify out here. The houses that qualify, they get it completely paid for. They save 30% off of the electric rate, and it lowers the electric bill for the next 20 years, okay? Now, not everybody qualifies, obviously, and I immediately, so I go to hit the 4 points again, and I immediately go back into the takeaway and the transition. Now again, we don't know if your house is gonna qualify at this point, okay? The thing that I'm worried about for you guys is this tree right here. It might shade you guys, and you might not be able to get enough sunlight to qualify for this. But again, that's not my job to determine that today. My job is to explain this to you super quick, and all I have to do is fill out a little form so I can schedule a time for them to come out and measure the roof to see if you guys actually qualify. We won't know for about 2 weeks if you qualify for this, but if you do, we go from there. But I just have to fill out that little form. I do a little place we can sit real quick, and I move towards the door, okay? That's my second attempt, right? So now again, if they stop me, now I've made it really simple so that if they weren't paying attention the first time, which just so you know, most people are gonna only listen to like 30% of what you say at the door. So if it's not really simple and clear cut, they're gonna miss it. And that's why they're gonna give you an objection, is because they don't understand it. It's not because they don't wanna do it, it's because they don't understand it, okay? The only logical outcome of this information explained properly is for them to let you in the house and fill out the form to see if they qualify, okay? So because of that, them again saying, hey, again, like now's not a good time, you know, can you come back later? I still hear the same thing, which is, I still don't understand. I know this is the second time you explained it, but I still don't understand it. Can you make it a little bit more simple? Okay, so third time around, I make it even simpler. Okay, I say, yeah, I'm so sorry I'm explaining this wrong. Basically what you're doing is you're trading roof space for cheaper electricity. And that's why every single person I talk to out here, they want to qualify for this, is because they want to save money off their electric bill and they don't want to have to pay for it. Now again, I'm not the one who decides who qualifies out here. Since we're paying for everything, we can only pick the best houses that get the most sunlight. My job's not to decide today who qualifies. I just have to explain it to you real quick, and I fill out a form so I can schedule time for them to come out and measure the roof. So I just have to fill that form out real quick, but give a little place we could sit. And again, transition for the third time, okay? After the third time, if they're still giving me grief, you know, I really will just like break it down and level with them and be like, hey, I mean, I just want to make sure you guys understand what's going on here, right? Like, be real with me. Like, what's the deal here? And if they really at that point have a real objection that they're preventing me from doing it, I'll make an appointment for another day. But I'm gonna push 3 times to transition to the house at that point at least. And I'm gonna level with them. I'll ask them, do you guys just get a lot of salespeople out here? That's a line that I say a lot of times when they're like, oh, I'm not interested, I'm not selling anything. I immediately ask a question to regain control. So that's an important thing to know, is that the person who's asking the questions is the one who's in control of the conversation. Okay, so if they start asking you a bunch of questions and you're just answering them, they just keep shooting off shots, and you've eventually lost control of the situation, and it's going to end up with them saying they're not interested and no, and then you're just going to walk away from the door not getting the sale. But if you're able to regain control of the conversation by asking a question and then moving on, you've done your job properly. So, I mean, that's a question that, if somebody says, oh, what are you selling out here? I say, actually, this is the state program. Do you guys get a lot of